So, for instance, we can't live as apes because we don't have fur. So we need warmth. We can't...
No, you're doing a pretty good job.
Check out SoundJam. Check out SoundJam.
So we're here with Mr. Brandon Block. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, and lovely to be here.
How are you, sir?
Very good. Cannot complain, thank you very much. It'd be rude to complain. So, yeah, I'm all good. Lots of great things happening since we spoke 2 years ago. Life's improved in numerous ways, but, I think this situation we're in now has been a real eye-opener. It's helped me see my path again and realise my values, I think, which is nice. Obviously, my heart goes out to people who've lost loved ones and people who've lost their lives to this horrible disease. But the other side of that is that we've all had to adapt in ways that we never expected we would. And hats off to everyone who's stayed safe, done the right thing, followed the rules. Even if you haven't, you've dealt with it your own way. So I think it was this situation was an accident waiting to happen as such. I think beforehand, what we were talking about when we last spoke was all the stuff around mental health, and this now will cause after effects and ripples with mental health in everyone's life.
I was going to say, considering your line of work currently with Happy Days and the mental health kind of outreach work that you do, which you're clearly not doing probably quite as much of in person, from obviously career changing from your previous life, I guess, as a DJ, a superstar DJ all over the world, and particularly obviously in Ibiza, which is where we met. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like a good time, a moment in time where, you can be of service more than ever before. And I'm guessing you're kind of getting a better feeling from doing what you do now in some ways than where you were previously.
This is what I was, although I was on that journey before of like that personal development journey, I still, if I delve deep into here, I still probably fundamentally believe that the work I do, I should be giving away, So I always struggled with that sort of creating a program of coaching and then charging people for it because, I didn't do that myself. However, times have changed. We need to earn money, but my passions led me now to where I am right now, and very fortunately been offered a job which I didn't expect to be not only not offered, but it's a shock that I got the job and I actually wasn't. And I often do this because you're right, the DJing has been my love of my life, and it always will be. My music has saved me so many times from emotional torment and trauma and all that stuff. So but moving forward, in lockdown, I've been doing these things on Facebook every day, which I called the tune-up, which meant I just woke up one morning and I thought, what would make in this, the lockdown, and it was like 2 or 3 days after being into lockdown, I thought, oh dear, this is going to be tough, isn't it? Well, we don't do anything, and then I'm not. So I just thought I'd play some records on Facebook and share a Facebook Live, and loads and loads of people joined it, and we got requests, and then I invited guests on, and I had a program for each day of the week, and I had certain guests who came on every week. And I'd contacted old friends, DJ friends who I hadn't spoken to for a long time, who I had many memories with back in the day, and now we sort of talk each week, which has been wonderful, and playing the records for people, and we have a little community, and what I watched build was a lovely thing. People's comments, and they were all talking to each other, and it was like how are you today? Nice to see you, blah blah. It was like during lockdown, very very well done, because before lockdown and COVID, we were using social media for all the wrong things. We were living in worlds of comparisons, expectations, not living our true lives, looking at other people's lives. And I mentioned to you, Joe, 2 years ago. It's not changed, probably got worse. So we, constantly, getting the notifications and I was getting overwhelmed with it. I was getting overwhelmed, and I just thought, God, just put this down. No, I wasn't intentionally looking at, just holding the phone for that long, or even a computer, but mostly the mobile phone. And you take that out of your hand it's a strange thing to do. Put your phone down.
I think really what you're talking about is this process of disconnect, and that's what happens when we're always on our technology. What you created during lockdown was connection, and that is what we're all missing during lockdown, that ability to tap into our own community. And then that's exactly the kind of work that you have been doing ever since you kind of left your path as more of a DJ on the kind of international stage and dove a little bit deeper into the situation that's evolved throughout your personal life, which has been difficult, and you've navigated it with a set of tools that you've kind of picked up along the way, which, I mean, hats off to you, to be fair. You have done some amazing work, and you're still continuing to do that. So I'm very, very pleased with your new website, which I actually noticed as well, which is looking fantastic.
Looks really nice. I really appreciate Tom, and thank you for the intro. He's done a fantastic job. And I've been a bit fussy, actually, but it's worth it because it's come out incredibly well done, mate. Sound, yeah.
Website is looking superb. I just had to drop that in there, but it really, really demonstrates the kind of journey that you have kind of travelled upon, and the way that you've infused what you do now, as you've just sort of shown with your idea for the tune-up. It's great, getting that connection with all your old friends, the people that you kind of want to catch up with and kind of really connect to obviously just increase your general happiness levels when we're all in isolation. I mean, have people reached out to you because they're particularly suffering in the aftermath of that?
To be honest, I mean, yes, I've had a few people reach out. Some people have delved into old behaviours. I won't mention what they are, obviously, because it's all confidential, but people have who were maybe on a different journey have dipped back into old behaviours because of the isolation and vulnerability and uncertainty. I've not been overwhelmed by any means, but I've always put the message out there that if people need to reach out, but it's difficult. People don't want to. They find it hard to say that. And even though we're breaking the stigma with mental health and men's and women's and breaking, being able to say, look, I'm not feeling great. You're allowed to say it now. It's not a big deal. That's the wrong word to say. It's not taboo anymore. It's out there. We have a mental health. Every single one of us has a mental health. It's how healthy is it? And if we're mindful of how healthy our mental health is, I heard someone say, and look, I've heard it many, many times, if we put weight on, if we're not feeling physically well, we'll go to the doctors and say, can I have some whatever, or I'll go start riding my bike, or I'll go and get some exercise, or I'll do, we know how to take care of our physical body, but without our brain working well, that's not going to work. That runs everything. Our brain is our powerhouse, our engine. It controls every part of our body. So if that's not working well, it's going to be difficult to manage the other stuff. So we have to be mindful of our mental health, and that's it.
But it's been a time where we've all used our sort of, emotional crutches to obviously escape this kind of feeling of loneliness and disconnection and boredom. I think a lot of people have just been bored. And that's kind of an interesting thing, because I think, that initial mental process that you just described is one of need and desire and basically patchwork to cover up. And, if anyone has dug deep into that hole, it's you. You've been there. God knows how you managed to get out of that big, dark mess. But it's a miracle that you're still standing here before us. And, great that you are now doing the work that you do. So if anyone, had some tips and tricks to sort of at least start that journey, who, maybe people have been drinking a bottle of wine a day extra than they were when all of this started. I mean, how do you get this addiction under control?
Well, I think there's a lot. There's always to do with the language. I've learned a lot of the language we use as well. Addiction's a word that describes it describes a human condition. If you think about that, right, what you just said, and going back to the needs, right? We are humans. We have certain needs anyway. We require. So, for instance, we can't live as apes because we don't have fur. So we need warmth. We can't.
No, you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. We don't have, We can't, so for instance, we can't forage for food anymore because that's not the way it's made. The systems have created supermarkets and shops, and someone else does the farming, and someone else does the growing and farming of animals, and we go to a shop and buy it. So a lot of our human needs are taken care of, but that doesn't give us the feeling of, I suppose, belonging in our social groups, because there's a lot of, as you say, comparisons and expectations, and we're often looked at. So, for instance, I don't know if you remember the saying, I'm sure you do, keep up with the Joneses, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the Joneses in my day were people who lived down the road, maybe, who I could not walk out my house in the morning and see a new car or see a new set of double glazes. You go, oh, look at the Joneses, got a nice new set of double glazes. But the Joneses are now in front of you. The Joneses are on your mobile phone. As soon as you click on either one of the social media platforms, you'll see someone going, wow, how good is this? Here, great, this, da, da, da. And we know the world's not like that all the time. Yes, there are people who are very, I suppose, who have those particular lives, which maybe that's what they want. You have to stop comparing yourself. You have to stay right. What I've got is enough. Be grateful. Have the gratitude. Although it's difficult. And if you so one of the tools, gratitude is a fundamental human need anyway. I think if you can make up and say, I'm grateful for, and feel it. You see, gratitude's a feeling. It's not just saying I'm grateful. You have to feel the emotion that goes with gratitude, which is a feeling of well-being, a feeling of I am enough and that I have enough. And if you can do that on a daily basis by doing that, and people practice gratitude lists and meditation and letting go of, and I do it now, as often as I can. I'm not saying I'm a religious guru and do it every day, but when I get the moments of, overwhelm or whatever, I can sit and meditate, and I have a model that I use, which I've actually got quite used to saying to my brain, right, I'm going to meditate now, and my brain sort of goes, okay, let's switch off. And I read something
that sort of focusing on what you do have rather than what you don't have. So if you wake up in the morning, you go, God, you open Instagram, you're like, Christ, Jojo next door's got a brand new Ferrari, so-and-so up the road's got a nice Winnebago. They're all material external. But if you're focusing on what you do have in your life currently, your family, your friends, your health, your car outside the door, maybe it's not a Ferrari, maybe it's a Lamborghini, whatever. But, ultimately, we all are abundant, internally, and the external is exactly that. And focusing on what we do have is exactly that, gratitude for what is. And I think that is always, for me, step one when things get out of whack. It's like, as you said, it's external stimulation that causes this, desire and need to look outside for that cover-up, that addictive tendency that keeps us going back into the same patterns of behaviour.
Well, look, the thing about it is, right, we are human beings and we are addicted by nature. And that's not an illness, it's not a disease. We are all addicts in some way, right? We are creatures of habit. We create routines because we like doing them, right? So they're going to give us something. Whatever we do as a routine will give us something to feel good about, right? There's no point in doing it if we don't. The thing is, look, I'm going to take it to the other side with substances. Substances are dangerous because they can make you ill, right? There's lots of behaviours and routines we get into which don't make you ill, which we do continually, and sometimes we obsess about them. If we have underlying trauma, and I'm not saying you can open it up and deal with it, because people can let go. If you can let go of it and just say, look, that was accepting that wasn't necessarily your fault in any way. I mean, I'm saying it's easy done, but you have the capacity to do that. But that underlying trauma will come up and bite you on the arse, because this is quite right. So this is the biological side of that answer. Our body. So if we have an emotional reaction to something, right? We'll have a chemical release, right? And if it's a good emotional reaction, we'll have a release of dopamine and and serotonin and endorphins and oxytocin, which all make you feel good in their own ways. If it's a negative reaction, we'll get the release of cortisol, which is our stressor, which makes us fearful, which is going to protect us and get us into survival mode. But come in, Avon calling, and it's going to get into a survival mode. Which, if we don't get rid of the cortisol by fighting or running or flighting or freezing, it will make us ill, because it's not meant to be in our bodies for long. What we often function with now is lots of cortisol because of the world we live in. All the media we watch and all the stuff that stresses us out, it stresses us out. If we're looking at Instagram, let's say first thing in the morning, and thinking, oh, I haven't got that. or don't they look, and you're not living your own life and you're feeling bad about yourself. So we have to live in the moment, which is great if you can do that. It takes practice. All this stuff takes practice, Joe, because it just takes us out of our old routines. And if we can get back if we can break all our old routines, and I'm not saying all of them, because some of them are really great, and the timings and the time you put on certain tasks you do for the day, if that works for you, that's great. But the old routines of thinking badly about ourselves, judging ourselves, comparing ourselves, and living under other expectations of targets and unachievable results. That's what the world is setting us goals we can't achieve, because it moves so fast and we're expected to be like, it's how you look at success. I was always thinking, I need to be, why did I sell those flats? Why did I, thinking, and it's all about money. And I was thinking, do you know what? I'm happy now. What does it matter? I have enough. I am enough. My girlfriend is beautiful, gorgeous, and we're banging love. And I wouldn't have met her if my life had been any different. If I'd have different paths. So it was meant to be, there's lots of stuff. I mean, look, I just think we have to be mindful. We've got to look after ourselves. That is the key. That is, because without us being healthy and mentally stable, physically okay or whatever, something to manage, whatever's within our power to change or to do, we have to do that. Because it's not going to get any easier, unfortunately. It's going to get infinitely tougher, I think, for many, many people in the next years to come, because of the dramatic changes that have taken place in the world. It's mental.
I was just saying, on a bad day when you wake up and you can't see the wood for the trees, all you can see is this big pile of uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't make any plans. You can't book any trips. You can't, you just can't do the things you want to do. You can't see your friends. You can't see your family. You can't hug your parents. The world has been very challenging for a wee while now. But, once you get out of the way, and as you said, look at all the things that are possible and try and form some sort of positive routine, which is what, you use that word quite a lot in the last paragraphs. And I think that, having a go-to system to claw your way back to where you were previously. And I remember you telling me when we last met that, morning times are not you don't always wake up in a good mood. I mean, who does? Sometimes it takes a little reset button to kind of get back to where you want to be, and maybe that's a cup of coffee, maybe that's a yoga, maybe that's meditation, maybe that's a pop to the gym, whatever it takes. But you just got to take a pause and a step back, and instead of being sucked into, my God, the world is a disaster right now, you've got to just wait and give yourself a moment to reevaluate the situation. And I think it's just so easy to want that instant gratification, that instant dopamine hit that you've just described on Instagram or whatever, and it's just time to take a little pause before we act. And I think that that's probably clearly, what you've managed to cultivate. And, that's what impresses me most about you, is the fact that you've gone from, up there with consumption of, whatever it was that you were up to, lots of naughty things, no doubt. I'm just kidding. But, it's hard. It's hard to change behaviours. It's not easy to change habits, and we've all picked up some bad ones in the last sort of 4 or 5 months. I don't think there's a single person out there insane and meditated every day and done the yoga and drunk green juice. We've all been through a rocky patch. We've gone, fuck it, I am just going to eat that chocolate bar, drink that bottle of red wine and watch some porn, whatever. I'm not talking about me personally here, just the general public out there that might be watching. But you know what it is? It's just all those little habits that pop in from time to time that are very unwelcome, but it's the noticing when they come back and getting that pause in place to basically have a little moment to say no.
And you know what? Like what you were saying about these little bad habits, there is a need for them, right? And I'm going to explain to you why. Because what you said was that they dip into the old bad habits, let's say. The reason you dip into the bad habits, right? And this is because, this is what I've worked out. This is for me, my experience, is that, so going back to the cortisol release, right? Right, so you imagine this. I'll work this out. If let's just say, for instance, right, our levels of interaction in the world, right, are mostly, and I'm not saying all the time by any means, generalising, mostly slightly stressed. I'm not saying massively, but let's say the mornings you wake up in some mood, whatever it may be. chances are, if you've gone to bed thinking about anything that you haven't done from the day before, or you've watched something stressful on telly, or whatever you go to bed with, if you don't do something to switch off, chances are you'll wake up and you'll go, oh, I've got to do that, and it'll be like, immediate slight stressors, right? But we're so used to that. We've been used to that for years, right? And more so with the technology and stuff now because of the information we're fed a lot of. I'm not saying it's all bad by any means. It's just how it affects us. But we will get, and we need a certain amount of stress to get into the world, right? To get out of bed, to make the bed, to go and make the coffee, to do the stuff. You need a certain amount of adrenaline to get you going. So our bodies, or our mind, there's a great neuroscientist called Dr. Joe Dispenza. You need to watch him. He's fantastic. Anyway,
many times.
Right, so he was my go-to because although I'd been off the drugs for many, many years, I still wasn't feeling emotionally not fulfilled, because I don't think I'm going to be truly fulfilled, but I'm, more stable. So I saw this Joe Dispenza. I thought, God, I wish I was that. I knew the whole thing he was talking about. I've known it for years, even before I'd heard of him and way back, because these people weren't around when I'd stopped doing the drugs, but I couldn't articulate it. I couldn't find a way to explain why I felt the way I did at certain times and what it was, because I never believed in the addiction model, let's say, because I think it's language we use commands our feelings. So the Joe Dispenza thing, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I watched this. This is exactly what I'm like. This is exactly why the reasons I did what I did, and for many years I felt sort of, so now I knew what I had to work with, and I could learn to deal with, and I knew what was happening. So what I'm saying is that often because of our environment, our go-to default is slightly stressed. So to change that feeling from slightly stressed, which is what we like to do because we're humans, we like to be experimental, we like to change the way we feel, because we're always feeling slightly stressed and not completely happy, because happiness, we know, comes from inside, but we have to often tell ourselves, because the world doesn't make it easy to be happy all the time. So if we're at that level of stress, the easiest route for us to get a change of that feeling will probably be a negative thought or a negative feeling, because it's quick and we're used to it, because we're used to those negative patterns of thinking. So we'll go, oh, I know what I think about. Well, your body goes, right, I need that fix of chemicals. How are we going to do it? And without your mind telling you, your body's already said, right, I'm going to feel this way because I'm getting the chemical release I need. And then you start feeling a certain way and your mind's going to go, oh, let's think about why we're feeling like that. And then it'll be, then the whole world will go into that anxious thinking process, and you'll get your feeling. You'll see, I'm comfortable now. I'm stressed. That's where I'm comfortable. And you people go, I'm stressed out. How many people, if you ask many people now, you go, how do you feel? Oh, stressed. Are you happy? Oh, do you know what? No one's asked me that for a long time. I'm actually all right. But if you see, innate happiness is innate. We know that happiness is inside. If you say I'm happy, you'll end up feeling much better than you did before.
I think feeling is a decision, and you're only one decision away from feeling good, because in every given moment you have you have the opportunity to decide what your next feeling is going to be. And I just don't think anyone, or a lot of people that are, really unable right now to switch on the happy juices, they just don't know that, everything that goes on upstairs is not real. It's just, it's our mind. And once we decide who the master of our sort of destiny of feeling and sensation and living is, obviously not the mad, crazy, monkey mind. It's us. It's down to us to take responsibility to change the game, essentially. And I think there's a cheesy song actually that this songwriter wrote called "Too Blessed to Be Stressed." And actually, when I get really, really stressed, that generally tends to go round and round in my head, and I'm like, you're not really stressed. Like you think you're stressed, and you're only just like one deep breath away from resetting your nervous system and changing the game. So yeah, it might be a cheesy song, but it works because we are all blessed. We're all still here. We're not dead. We haven't died, and a lot of people are really suffering out there with, as you pointed out at the beginning of this interview, a lot of loss, a lot of grief, and a lot of sadness. And I think we've all got a lot to be grateful for. And me in particular, because you've given me a lovely little chunk of your time today. So thank you for joining us here on your wonderful new website made by Thomas Watts. It looks absolutely spectacular. Are you pleased with it?
I love it. I've always thought I needed one, which I just haven't got around. And Tom's done a fantastic job, and it's exactly what I want. It's easy to navigate. You could just press a button and you get where you want to go.
Check out SoundJam. Check out SoundJam. Check out